All right, let's get right into it. We have talked about all the different root causes. Now we want to delve into each one a little more specifically. And today we're going to talk about the root cause of auditory processing. Now, I've been talking about auditory processing. That's your auditory short-term memory. Been talking about that for 30 plus years. But now, because of changes in our society, different things that have happened developmentally over the years, now it is in such a bad situation that they call it a disorder, Central Auditory Processing Disorder. Well, I want to say that, in my opinion, it's not a disorder, it's a lack of good function. I call it inefficiencies, just not working up to the maximum that it could. Now, so many of the symptoms of low auditory processing are the same as the checklist of ADHD, whether it's inattentive or uh, the hyperactive. So, one uh, symptom of auditory processing is attending, being able to stay on task. If your processing is low, you're processing like a younger individual. And you know how young kids are, they can't pay attention for very long. So it really affects your ability to attend and stay on task. It really affects your ability to follow directions because auditory processing, again, is that short term memory, what comes in and what comes right back out. So if you have like a give your child several directions, 3 different things. Or, for instance, go upstairs and get your shoes and socks on and come back down. We've got to go. And you're getting everything ready and you're waiting and you're waiting. And now you're really mad. So you run upstairs to try to figure out what's going on because they're not obeying, right? So you think it's behavioral. And you say, "Where are you and what are you doing?" And they give you this deer in the headlight look like, "Was I supposed to be doing something?" And you just want to pinch their ears off because you told them what to do. But what happened was they got part of it. They were upstairs. They might even have their shoes and socks, but then something distracted them and they went that direction. Um, and so they just weren't holding all those things together. This is one thing that can help you so much that when you find out where your child is on their auditory processing, then you can have more compassion when they don't follow all your directions. Or, and it'll cut way down on the tension in the family as well. Because if you know they can't do it, you're not going to set them up for failure, right? You're just going to tell them one or two things. Or if you need them to go upstairs, get their shoes and socks, and come back down, you tell them that, and then you say, upstairs, shoes down. You break it down into these little bitty pieces so that they can be successful. But in the meantime, we've got to be working on this processing so that they don't stay in that situation because they're going to need to be able to follow directions in their job later on and all kinds of situations and be able to, handle conversations. Conversation is another place that's typically very challenged for a child with low processing, especially if you're in a conversation and they're having to wait to tell you what is on their mind. It's like, if I don't tell you right now, I'll forget. And so they risk because it's important what they want to say, they'll risk interrupting you, seeming rude. And again, we typically treat that behaviorally when it's really not a behavior issue. It's a processing issue. So sometimes one thing you can do is just say, when you have something you want to say and you can't interrupt right then, just say that over and over to yourself until there's an opening, and then we can talk about it. That would be one way to mitigate some of that that angst that is there. So another place that auditory processing is so key is reading comprehension or listening comprehension. So just listening to a story or listening to someone read or listening to a lecture and being able to hold those pieces together and then put them in long-term memory. You have to hold the pieces together before they can go into long-term memory. So it affects their comprehension. Now, that's not always on the checklist for ADHD, but very common for this kind of situation. One thing that is very common between the two is conceptual thinking or seeing the big picture. If you can hold pieces together in your short-term memory, you can see things, like they are. Like, this is a classroom, somebody's standing up there teaching. Maybe I shouldn't blurt out something right in the middle of what she's saying. Those kinds of things have to do with, again, holding those pieces together in your short-term memory so that you can analyze the big picture of what's happening and you don't do impulsive things. Impulsivity is definitely on that checklist for ADHD. Those are the main things, the comprehension, the conceptual thinking, that big picture, conversational language, attending, following directions. Those are, in general, the broadest main things for auditory processing. So, um, I want to encourage you, if you're getting something out of this and you've been searching for some help for your child, please hit the like button and subscribe and help this get to more people because they're looking for it too. It can really cut down on your family conflicts when you understand where your child is. So I want to equip you with how to check and see if this is an issue and part of those symptoms. I would say at least 99% of the children that I see that have that label of ADHD, they also have this low auditory processing. So if you will put in the comments test kit, we will email you a test kit, a free test kit that you can check your child on. So it's going to say if they can do 5 pieces of information, they're processing more like a 5-year-old. If they can do 6, they're processing more developmentally like a 6-year-old. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with their IQ. Don't misunderstand me. You can have a really smart kiddo that is not processing well. And when you get their processing up, it just releases all that ability just tremendously. It makes life so much easier. So, in the test kit, it's going to tell you exactly how to administer the test and find out whether they're at level 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. 7 is typical for anyone that's 7 years old or older. So, you want to find that out. And then what you can do is also in the test kit is going to teach you something to do to fix that. So, it's not any good to know what the root cause is unless you can do something about it, right? So, it's going to say there's an activity you can do that is twice a day for 2 minutes. And believe it or not, that frequency of doing it a couple of times a day for a really short period of time, and then over time, they typically go up about a year every 4 months in their processing ability, and you will start to see these symptoms that are on that checklist diminish and oftentimes totally go away. That's what I've seen. When you're diligent to work on this, again, twice a day for 2 minutes, not too much to sacrifice for your child to have a better future, right? So I want to encourage you, you hold the key to your child's future. When you stimulate the brain and get new pathways working and get their processing up higher, it changes everything. It'll change their destiny and everything involved in their destiny, how they relate to their families when they're older, how they are on the job, all of those kind of things. The key's in your hand. I want to send that test kit to you, so put it in the comments and work on that. If you need any other help or screenings for your developmental activities to show where some other of these symptoms may be located, we have that on our website at brainsprints.com.